Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to another random review. Today's random review is Antonioni's Notte from 1961. This is the Eureka Masters Cinema Blu-ray number 47. Unfortunately there's no extras, but there is quite a thick booklet in this edition. I think this is also available in Criterion. I'm not quite sure, but I think it is. Now, my relationship with Antonioni isn't a great one. If you're a regular viewer to the channel, you'll know my Italian film journey is more Elio Petri, Mario Monicelli and Francesco Rossi, rather than Fellini, Antonioni, Rossellini, De Sica. I'm up to, I think, 4 Rossellinis. I'm up to 5 Antonionis. So I'm getting there. I do like Blow Up, even though I haven't seen it for years and I don't actually have it in my collection, which is probably something I should change. I do really like Il Grido from 1957 with Alida Valli. I like The Passenger with Jack Nicholson from 1975. But again, I do find the Antonioni films that I've seen to be a little overlong. I know he wasn't really that interested in like a tight script. He would kind of let things develop. But I do think his films are a little long. And they are in, for me, the good, not great category. But again, we'll discuss. And then my biggest, or one of my biggest cinematic sins, I suppose, is L'Avventura, which I think is a good film, but not a great film. And again, at 143 minutes, I think it's too long. Now, obviously, lots of people love L'Avventura, and that's absolutely fine. We all don't see films the same way. L'Avventura is generally it appears in the top 50 films of all time, the top 100 films of all time, whatever list of greatest films of all time, L'Avventura is generally in it. But again, it's a good film for me, but I wouldn't say it's great. So then we come to Notte, which stars Mastroianni, who, again, in the past couple of years, very much like Gian Maria Volonté, I've come to appreciate Mastroianni a lot more, because he's shown me different sides in A Special Day, The Organizer, Big Deal in Madonna Street. So I'm a much bigger fan of Mastroianni than I used to be. It also stars Jean Moreau. I mean, who doesn't like Jean Moreau? And it also stars Monica Vitti, who was in L'Avventura. Who doesn't like Monica Vitti? So this is another fairly simple story of a couple who are obviously struggling, and they spend a bit of a day, a night and a bit of a morning drifting apart, coming together, drifting apart, coming together, wandering off, drifting apart. and perhaps coming together, but probably drifting apart. Mastroianni plays a writer. Jean Moreau is his wife, who comes from money, and they basically spend the film wandering about, which is a large part of L'Avventura, until they get to this party in this kind of country estate. And for me, this is where the film changed for me, because for the first half, even though it's probably the best looking Antonioni film that I've seen so far, the black and white cinematography is really quite beautiful. He uses architecture very well. He uses space very well to show the distance between these two characters. Jean Moreau is very good at wandering through deserted streets and countryside. I mean, she obviously did that in Louis Malle's Lift to the Scaffold very well, the city streets of Paris. But as I say, I had kind of already made up my mind that this was going to be another good, not great Antonioni. But then something kind of happened when they get to that house and that party, because the film started reminding me of Last Year in Marienbad, Alain Resnais's film from 1960-61, the same year as Notte. And then Notte kind of made more sense, because I do think Last Year in Marienbad, which can be read several ways, is almost one of those films that's a science fiction film, even though it's not a science fiction film. And for me, Notte is almost like a science fiction film that's not a science fiction film. We're introduced to this crowd of people as they're clamoured around a racehorse who's just won them money. They obviously all have money. They're all looking for the next little thrill, because their lives are just like so empty. And the real sense of desolation and emptiness and desperation really comes through from the time they arrive at this party to the time they leave. Mastroianni is very gaunt. I think he's got makeup in his cheeks to make him look even more gaunt. Jean Moreau looks like a corpse for most of the film, until there's a downpour of rain, and that kind of brings her to life. Mastroianni meets Vite, who's invented a game on this kind of huge checkers board with a beautiful backdrop. And he obviously is interested in Vite, who's the daughter of the guy who's hosting the party, and offers Mastroianni a job to write about the history of his company. But again, plot doesn't really matter, because there isn't really one. But how all the characters move about, it's not as stylised as Last Year in Marienbad. Because again, personally, I think everybody in Last Year in Marienbad is dead. But that's just my theory anyway. I mean, you could read everybody in Lenotti's dead as well. They're certainly dead inside. And that's what really flipped a switch in me. And then I really started getting engaged with the characters as they just take up space in this large canvas. You know, in the morning, Mastroianni and Moreau are wandering through this kind of open, wooded area, and it's like quite beautiful. But that was really the key to me really enjoying Notte a lot more than the other Antonioni films that I've seen so far. I still wouldn't give it 5 stars, I would give it 4. But that's the highest score I have for an Antonioni so far. I mean, again, it is probably too long at 122 minutes. Because again, that first half, the characters just aren't that engaging. But again, this is just my opinion, and my opinion is not fact. But the second half, the film, for me, becomes something else and something special as these characters sit about and talk about money, and they're just completely empty and desolate, which is something that really attracted me to the rest of the film. So that's my random review of Notte. I'm sure lots of people disagree and call it a masterpiece, and that's absolutely fine. I'm maybe just not smart enough to get what Antonioni's doing. But again, my Italian cinema journey is a little bit different than the checking out the standard masters first. So Notte is an excellent film, but for me the second half just goes to another level. But please let me know in the comments what you think, and hopefully you'll join me again for more random reviews. This is Solitaire Ronin from Solitaire Ronin Films saying thank you and farewell.